Good morning and welcome to the HIPAA and Security Profile class. I'm Kathy Ransom. I am the lead trainer here at TriTech, and I'm also the Industry Education Coordinator. And today we are going to talk a little bit about security profiles. We're going to talk about a few of the new reports that you may or may not be aware that have been added into our program regarding security and HIPAA, and then we're also going to do a HIPAA review. So let's go ahead and get started. Profiles then allow us access to different parts of the program. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up one of my staff members and look at their security tab. If the type is a billing user, then they do have a security profile attached. And again, the security profile allows them into different parts of the program. So in this case, Anne has a security profile called ASP Customer Data Entry. She's not a system administrator. She isn't locked out, and we haven't said force a password change when she logs in. If we go ahead and look at our security profiles, typically we don't see a security profile that would say Anne's profile, Kathy's profile, Mike's profile, but rather we have a profile that's labeled or has a description based on the job title or the job that you expect that person to do. So in this case, we have a system administrator type profile, and this profile would then have access to everything in the program. So they can see financial data, they have full access to be able to do a single print if necessary, they have full access to all the codes, to billing functions, to utility functions that have been turned on, to reporting functions if you utilize Task Scheduler, and then to areas within the call and within the patient. Remember that security profiles should be assigned so that the person that is logging in sees the least amount of protected health information for them to be able to do their job. So if you have someone in your finance department that logs in to run reports, their security profile then could limit them from patient data and call data, and those reports would be ran at a de-identified level so that they're not seeing that protected health information, which would include like a patient name. In my example here, I also have a data entry type profile that's considered limited. And many of you might have this, and if you don't, this is one that truly we would recommend. If you look at this particular example, we do see that we have charge codes are set as a view only, and our credit codes are set as a view only. We have no privileges on some of the other codes that we wouldn't want our data entry staff to be able to change or add. Again, level of care is view only. We almost always want to see those billing schedules set as view only, and in this case we also have our payer code set as view only. Again, the reason behind that would be so that we don't get 10 ABC insurances added, but rather we have one, and if we need to add a second one, it's at the discretion of a management type person. In this example, we have the ability to see financial data set with full access, but the ability to print single turned off. Again, the thought behind that would be so that everyone doesn't get in a bad habit of printing daily bills singly, but rather they would use the batch functionality, which is how the program should be ran. And then if you did need someone to print a single, again, it would go up to a management type person. So the security profiles typically are set up based on the job that you're doing. Normally we'll see them as an administrative type. Maybe everything's view only. We might have a finance person and then a data entry that has limited availability as well to some of the fields. If you're wondering what your profiles look like and who they're attached to, we do have a profile assignment report. Under the reports drop down, the profile assignment report allows you to choose a specific user or a specific profile type if you would like to, or you can run it wide open and see, well, gosh, what profile is attached to everyone in my staff codes based on the profile. So in this case, we can see in directory TriTech EMS1, these people have the data entry profile. In EMS2, these people have the data entry profile. As far as the system administrator profile, again in directory 1, this group of people have the system administrator profile, and in directory 2, this group of people have the system administrator profile. Again, this is a newer report. It did come out a couple of versions ago, and again, it's called the Security Profile Assignment Report. We also have another report that you might find very handy, and it is called the Security Profile Configuration Report. And this report shows you, based on a profile, how do you have it configured. So you don't have to go through every single tab under the security profile settings, but rather you can come in and run a report that shows you how it's configured. So if we choose the data entry limited profile, and I'm going to run this just by the profile, what we'll then see is that on the billing tab, the Create ECM has full access, but the Forms editor has no privileges. Print itemized bills has no privileges. Print statements has no privileges. So what this report then shows you is, based on each tab in the profile, what kind of setting has or access has been given based on that profile. So that is another one of our newer reports that we have set up. We also have a report that you may or may not have used before, and it is our system access report. And this will show you then, either in a detail or in a summary, who has accessed or tried to log in the program. And I'm just going to go ahead and say, show me this year to date. And you can look at successful or failed logins. And I'm going to look at it by the user ID. So again, the system access report shows us how many people have logged into the program this year, or during the date range that you chose. So in this case, I have 39 successful logins by the user called demo, and I have 89 successful logins by the ID system supervisor. So that system access report again shows you the logins, successful or failed. Next, we're going to talk about setting up some of the security and some of the features in the billing program. We do have login security. Under the login security section in database setup, you can set the number of failed login attempts. So in this case, we're giving the user 6 tries to log into the billing program. And if after the 6th try, they still can't remember their password, they need to go away, in this case for 5 minutes, before it will reset itself. We have chosen to force the password change every 120 days. They'll get a warning 10 days before their password's going to expire. And you can also set the minimum password length. So if you wanted to set that to 7 characters, you simply would go ahead and set that to 7 characters and save your grid settings. We do suggest that you do set a password change warning and dates so that you get in the habit of changing up those passwords. Next, I would like to talk about HIPAA and do a little bit of a review. So there are lots of things that go with HIPAA and lots of acronyms. We have TPO, amendment, notice, security, authorization, and PHI. So let's go ahead and talk about what is protected. HIPAA protects your medical records, including conversations between doctors and nurses about your treatment. HIPAA also protects your billing information and any medical information in your health insurance company's computer system. Medical information which identifies you cannot be unnecessarily shared. What is protected health information, or PHI? PHI includes any form of identifiable health information. It can be on paper, it can be verbal, it can be pictures. To secure PHI, it should be encrypted. Paper, film, or other hard copies should be destructed by shredding or incinerating. How can you secure protected health information? Proper encryption, and encryption is an algorithm that algorithmic process that transforms data into a form that has a low probability of assigning a meaning. And proper destruction, meaning shredding or destroying in a manner that the information cannot be reconstructed. So here's a cute little joke. It's a HIPAA cartoon. And the guy said, somebody threw out these medical records in the trash. Is it okay to recycle them for scrap paper? When you have paper protected health information or PHI, what your options are to convert them to electronic and then encrypt them. You would want to keep paper in locked filing cabinets bolted to floors or to the walls. Keep them in locked rooms in a locked building. And then make sure that you know who has access. And when those people leave, remove the access. Notice is another one of those words that is important in HIPAA. Written documentation describing what your policies are regarding protected health information must be provided to the patient at the time of first treatment for non-emergencies and as soon as reasonably practical for an emergency. And a good faith effort must be made to obtain a written acknowledgement of receipt. So that's considered the notice of privacy practices. Access is another one of those words. Patients have the right to inspect or obtain a copy of their protected health information from the provider's files. Generally, you would provide access within 30 days of that request. Amendment is another common word that we talk about in HIPAA. Patients have the right to request that the record be amended by a covered entity, and there are situations where provider might deny that request. Amendment requires that the provider make reasonable effort to notify others, such as the billing service and the hospital, that they're amending the records. An example that I was given about amending a record was a pretty good one, and it was that a patient was transported, and in the narrative it said that the patient was exhibiting signs of intoxication. Rather what really had happened was the patient was having an allergic reaction to a medication. So in this case, the patient had asked to have the signs of intoxication removed from their patient care report and the right information put in. Authorization is a code that we have in the billing program. An authorization from a patient gives us permission to use and disclose their protected health information for non-treatment, payment, or operational purposes, such as marketing activities and medical studies. Authorizations can be revoked, and they can also be set up during a specific time frame. We talked about the login security in the database and how you can control access, again, by controlling the number of failed logins attempts, changing the password, giving a warning, and also setting that password length. Train your staff to control the system responsibly so that the system doesn't control them. And that's basically what the HIPAA is saying and the staff code set up. So again, on the security, we want to force a password change. This can be utilized to make sure that no other user knows each other's passwords. You should be setting up a security profile so everyone has their own login to the billing program and that they are responsible for their own password. We talked about the security profile setup. Again, you're establishing the minimum necessary standards for your system users. There are 3 levels of billing users. There's the system supervisor, that's the SUPR login. There's the system administrator. That system administrator can set up and other billers. And then there's the system user. And again, these are just an overview of what those can do. And these descriptions of the system supervisor, the system administrator, and the system user can also be found from the help system. Generally, you will have 1 or 2 system administrators in your office, and the rest of the staff will be set as system users. We talked about the security profiles, and you can actually clone a security profile. So we're going to go back and revisit those. So maybe we need to set up a security profile for that finance person in which we want to make them just a view-only profile. So the first option we would like to do is we'd like to pick one of the lesser profiles, someone that has more limited structure, because to create a view-only profile, we'll have to go through and touch all of the codes and all of the different parts of the program. If we come to the Edit drop-down and we choose Clone Profile, now we can set up that view-only. So in this case, we would go through each of the codes, and the level of security would be set to view data only, and we would click accept. And we would go through each one of our codes until we had all of them set to view only. Same thing with all of our billing functions. In this case, we would give them no privileges. And when we come over to the call or the patient side, we could choose the no privileges, or we could choose just the view data only. And by choosing it in the top where it says access for entire patient or access for entire call, we don't have to go through every one of the tabs, but rather we can choose one setting here. So that's how we would set up that new security profile, and by cloning it. Again, the security profiles are attached back to our staff members. The security profiles do indeed limit the availability of fields within the program. Many times our billing schedules are set as view only. Our level of cares are set as view only. Payers are sometimes set as view only. And again, those limitations of what you can see and what you have access to usually are set up by the system administrator, and again are controlled by the security profiles. At this time, I'd be happy to take any questions. A couple of the questions are, yes, the presentation is being recorded. And as far as the slides, I think we've had a couple of people that have asked for the slides, and I would be able to, we'll be able to email those out if there's a need for those. And it looks like that's the only questions. I'd like to thank everyone for your participation, and have a great Tuesday.